let's talk Jurassic to get through that. Let's
I can see that we're both like, I mean, you have a beard more than I do, but like this is a product of my growing insanity. So
yeah, exactly. It's like you kind of like give up to an extent. It's like I just need to grow this out. I don't need to do anything else. Like I need this in my life, this beard.
when people see my beard, they don't ask. They just assume like, oh, okay, I know how this guy's feeling. So
yeah, but it's like I feel like for people like us, me and you specifically, right? Like it's like there's that meme that I always see. It's like you know, who you see on the outside and then like what they're listening to in their headphones. And like the things that I feel like me and you would listen to would be so different from what you would think you would look at when you see us. You would hear like, you know, like I've got like some like Disney Parks music like lined up in my headphones as I'm just trotting meanly down the sidewalk, you know, like
I've got Dua Lipa and Ariana Grande playing in my headphones.
There you
go. As I've got the mean mug on my face. So
yeah, that's us. But hey, let's just get into it, man. This is this is another episode of Dino-Score, the music of the Jurassic Park franchise. It's been a little bit since we did one of these. I don't know, when was the last time we did that? That was a while ago. And what were we covering? Was that the Lost World still? Like
we did Dominion, and then we did Jurassic Park for its 30th anniversary, and then we did the Lost World after that, I think. So
oh my gosh, I'm trying to look it up here. Yeah, so Jurassic Park was 2023. That's when we did that, and then we did the Lost World in early 2024. So at the beginning of this year, we talked about the Lost World, and I know you had messaged me recently about something. Maybe we'll talk about that in a little bit, but there is a lot to talk about, I feel like, currently. And plus, the main reason I think we're getting together here today is to talk about the documentary Music by John Williams. There's a lot to talk about there. We'll get into that shortly. But and plus, at the end, we'll probably dive into some Rebirth discussion. But so I want to kick things off, though, with kind of a nice surprise that just popped out of nowhere. And that is the La La Land Records Jurassic Park 3 remastered and expanded limited edition 2 CD set that was revealed just recently. So, and that's shipping out like this week as of this recording. So, dude, how excited were you when you saw that pop up?
I love La La Land. They are our Jurassic musical saviors. Like they've provided us so much. They have unearthed so much Jurassic music that might have never seen the light of day, and they're doing Jurassic Park 3. So like, I'm so excited for this. But like, my thought was also, you know, I hope someday we get the expanded Jurassic World scores too. Someday down the line. Because this, you know, it took us what 23 years to get this Jurassic Park 3, and like even longer for Jurassic Park and the Lost World on some of that music. So like, it'll probably be a little while, but this Jurassic Park 3 one is awesome, and they nail these covers of the albums every time. Like they're sort of minimalist, but they're just like classic Jurassic, and it's so good. So
I thought I had. Oh no, I do have. Oh, it doesn't have the. I've got the toothless cover still here, right here for that one. But
the toothless cover,
the Jurassic Park La La Land Records.
The How to Train Your Dragon cover.
yeah,
that's what it is.
By the way, did you see pictures of that pop up just the other day?
Yeah.
So that's exciting. I can't wait. I hope it's not like dull and drab like a lot of like things tend to be. I want it to be colorful. It's based off of animation. Let's bring it up, you know.
They've got a lot to live up to. The animated films are phenomenal. So,
and the score, dude, the score in that, especially that first one, like the main theme and everything is epic. So and hopefully we'll hear that in Epic Universe. We're going all over the place, but back to the La La Land Records. You mentioned the cover art and stuff like that. Yeah, it's pretty sick. It's got the Spinosaurus on there, parachute. You got like Pteranodon.
Yeah, we got Billy.
Yeah,
in the parachute.
It's super awesome. And let's see here. I just want to read something here from it. It says, let's read from this part. Produced by Mike Matessino and Neill as Bulk, newly edited by Bulk, and mixed and mastered by Matessino from the original 24-bit film mixes. This 2 CD presentation showcases the original 2001 soundtrack release remastered on disc 1. So that's cool. And then the expanded film score spread across both discs, concluding with the additional tracks on disc 2. The exclusive in-depth liner notes are by John Takis, including new comments from the composer. That's cool. While the sharp art design is by Jim Titus. And yeah, so it's limited to 3,000 units. Currently, it's on sale for $31.98. Not bad. Start shipping November 21st. Yeah.
Yeah. I've got my I got my pre-order in, but haven't, anxiously awaiting. So
Yeah, this is one that I mean, look, a lot of us that are really obsessed with these scores tend to have a lot of the music, released or unreleased, maybe we'll say. But this is one that's kind of eluded my computer a little bit. Like I have not had this for some reason. I just never, I don't know, maybe because it's like a lower tier score for me. It's not one that really stuck with me as much. There's some brilliant stuff on there, and I'm very excited to kind of dive into the rest of it to hopefully hear what else is really exciting about it. So and then to get actually, I guess they said that there's going to be like notes from, I guess, Don Davis on there, right?
Donnie Davis himself.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. Hopefully he's not like, I listened to this one podcast and this guy said he always hates my music. But so I wanted to say I like the music. It's just different for me. But yeah, that's exciting. The liner notes are always really fun to dive into, so that'll be fun to see what kind of details are in there, because the ones that I think Mike Matessino wrote the ones for the last two, and they were just so in-depth and full of tons of information, making ofs, and this was before we got those big making of books, so that it was like great to get like this kind of information in the liner notes and stuff. So hopefully it's just as deep in the well of information there. So I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna come out soon, and the track listing looks pretty excellent, I guess. Like, it looks very long. We've got 16 tracks on that first one, or that's the original 16, and then there's another, I don't know, 9 or so. And then you've got like disc 2 has like 26 more tracks. Total 2-disc time is 2.5 hours. So that's a lot of music. That's almost
twice the length of the movie. So
yeah, it is. So there's a lot in there, and that's just very exciting. And I think and if you've listened to our our deep dives into these scores, we tend to go based off of these La La Land Records versions. So they provide the most in-depth versions. So having one for Jurassic Park 3 is very, very exciting.
Yeah, and on that second disc, a lot of the tracks are just like new intro, alternate intro, like alternate takes or like alternate sections of stuff, which is really interesting and will be really cool to listen to, because it's probably like music edits that they used in the film and things like that. So
yeah, we can see a lot of film versions. They have that in parentheses there on a lot of these tracks. There's extended versions, and like you said, a lot of alternates, which is kind of cool. So I'm interested to hear that. And based off of watching the Music by John Williams documentary, there was one portion where they just talked about like how frustrating the editing process can be and how many changes some of these cues go through. So so that makes me excited to hear what's in this one. But yeah, coming out soon, and we'll be talking about it, I'm sure. But we are gonna dive into the Music by John Williams documentary on Disney Plus. So dude, this has been one that I wouldn't say it's been a long time coming. It's been something that like kind of popped up out of nowhere, and yeah, it became something I was like really, really looking forward to. Did you have a chance to see this in a theater? Is that right?
I did. Yeah, I saw it at the Newport Beach Film Festival. And shout out to Neems for grabbing those tickets. Stephen Ray Morris and I went with Neems to that, and
Nice.
yeah, I had the opportunity afterwards to hear from the director and Frank Marshall because he's a producer of it, just
Hmm.
to hear behind the scenes and their process of making it afterwards too. So it was amazing. It was great. So
Yeah. So this is let me try to get through these names here, but directed by Laurent Bouzereau. Is that right?
yes,
Uh,
yes,
so Laurent, you could hear Laurent a little bit here and there in the movie itself. Produced by
yeah.
like a ton of people here. You've got like Ron Howard and Brian Grazer, a lot of big producers there. Kathleen Kennedy, Frank Marshall, Steven Spielberg, starring John Williams. Like, gotta love that.
Starring John Williams.
I think this thing. Let's see. Production company was Lucasfilm, Amblin. It's on Disney Plus currently. You can find it right there. It came out on October 23rd at the AFI Festival and November 1st on Disney Plus. 105 minutes. And this thing actually has been nominated for Best Documentary Feature at the 9th Critics' Choice Documentary Awards. And I believe it won for Best Music Documentary. So that's pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's it's exciting. I feel like there's been a lot of these. I mean, there's always documentaries, but I feel like there's been a lot of documentaries like this. Maybe it's the Disney Plus of it all. Maybe it's just the streaming of it all. But and the fact that a lot of our heroes currently that are from film or whatever are getting old. They're getting old, and I feel like
Yeah.
we tend to see a lot of these things now because you know, especially in the case for this one, it's like we want to make this, before he's gone. We want to celebrate the man while he's here, and I think I really
Hmm.
appreciate that. I don't know, whenever it was last year or so, there was the Harrison Ford one that came out on Disney Plus as well,
Oh
and
yeah.
that one was incredible. Like that one made me cry like a lot. So that was great. There's been a lot of other ones that I've caught on Netflix or whatever, but this is the latest of the bunch, and I think let's get your thoughts. Just give me like a general review of your
Yeah.
thoughts on this documentary.
So, I mean, to what you were kind of saying, there have been at least a couple of other documentaries about John Williams, but this one feels a bit definitive because it's being produced by Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy and some other folks who have known him and worked with him for so long, and it features some folks being interviewed in it who have been in the film music industry for a really long time or just the film industry for a long time. I so it feels like, I don't know if it is quote unquote the definitive John Williams documentary, but like it feels that way to me, because of the people involved, and just the scope and the breadth of everything that they cover. I thought if for a general overall review, I thought it was fantastic. I am impressed by the amount that they were able to cover, the voices that they were able to get for audiences to hear from. Like, you have Alan Silvestri in there, which is
Yes.
fantastic. You have David Newman in there, which is fantastic. You had Alex Ross in there, which was like a cameo for maybe people like me, because he's like a big musicologist, academic writer. He's written some great books about analyzing music and analyzing film music, and
Mhm.
so it was awesome to see him in there. J.J. Abrams being in there was really cool to me, but like I thought it was fantastic, in that it covered so much of John Williams. It covered plenty of Jurassic, and it also presented some big film music concepts in some ways that are like really digestible for general audiences, which made me really happy. And I think it just as a documentary as a whole, it just speaks to why we love film music so much really well. And like a big part of why everyone loves film music as much as they do is because of John Williams. So I thought it's just fantastic. It's a great documentary to have, honestly. So yeah.
I'm trying to look through. Okay, so you gave it a 4.5 on Letterboxd.
I did, yeah.
I was trying to look up the review right there. Go follow us on Letterboxd. What's your handle over there? Is it?
I think it's Caleb Composed, like all the other places. I think.
All right,
so.
yeah. I'm just at Brad Jost, I guess, probably.
Brad and I have 2 of the same favorites on Letterboxd, so we're good.
All right. So yeah, and if you want my ranking, I think, what did I put it at? I put it at 3.5. All right. So I think we are like incredibly lucky. Like this documentary highlights how lucky we are to like have lived during John Williams' time, to see his work, like just not all of us, but from start to finish, from so much of his work in the films. And I think that's pretty incredible that this really highlights how awesome it is to have experienced John Williams in real time. I'm super grateful that this documentary gives us like John speaking about his life. I think that's incredible. We get to hear straight from John Williams, and there's actually some like interview stuff where he's just being interviewed. There's other stuff where he's just like sitting at a piano and just kind of fooling around on the keys, and there's just conversations that he's having. So I think it's great that we get to hear from John Williams, and it's not like just other people talking about him. Yes, there are other people talking about him. You mentioned a lot of them, and it's just even sometimes I was like, oh, what are these people gonna have to say about John Williams? And then like they actually give some insightful stuff, and you kind of like get their perspective, and their perspective is the same as ours. Like they're just as excited, and they just have fallen in love with this music. So it was really cool to hear from a lot of these people. And I think, it puts together a lot of different elements, whether it's, film footage, old film, like home video style stuff, and there's pictures. And so everything looked really good. It's a very polished documentary. I think I unfortunately struggle. You talked about the definitive version. I wish there was more. Like I'm not feeling like this was bad for any reason. I think it was great. It was perfect. And it was just a highlight of his greatest hits. We really didn't dive too deeply into a lot of the other stuff. We did get to dive into his life quite a bit, which was nice. They talked about, his stuff at Tanglewood and in Boston with, different orchestras and stuff. So there was a lot of great stuff outside of his films, but like the films themselves, they just got like kind of glossed over a little bit here and there. You'd hear like one little portion of a score and just like maybe a little bit about how he worked on it. And then it's like mostly people talking about how great that was. And that's awesome. It's so great. Like I said, I think this highlights how incredible he is and his work. But I think at the same time, I would have loved to have seen this been like, I don't know, 4-part documentary or something like that, that really gets into like, there's been a few. I saw one that was like Steve Martin recently, and that was like, I don't know, a bunch of hours. There was like several parts or so. And there was like an Arnold Schwarzenegger one that was like like a bunch of episodes. So like there's room for that to have happened. So I'm a little sad that didn't happen, because like some of the stuff was glossed over so well. And I think, it's unfortunate. Jurassic Park tends to get kind of glossed over pretty quickly because of what followed it that same exact year, right? With
That's
Schindler's
true.
List.
That's very true. Yeah.
And it's hard to argue, right? It's hard to say like we can't just breeze by Jurassic or breeze by Schindler's List and just talk about Jurassic. It doesn't make sense. Like you have to sit there and talk about Schindler's List and how great it was and how great the music was. That won the Academy Award that year, right? So it makes sense that we talk about that. But I feel like Jurassic being in that same year just kind of gets glossed over a lot. But
Yeah.
and look, there's so many other scores that I would have loved to have heard more from. Um, and I was surprised. It felt like, I don't know when they made this specifically, but like it felt like it kind of concluded with like the Fablemans era. Um,
I
not
think I'm pretty
necessarily.
sure they were, all those interviews with John Williams and Steven Spielberg in John Williams' studio. Like, I'm pretty sure they did all of those like last year, 2023 is what it seemed like to
Mhm.
me. And then like the Fablemans is kind of the end of what they covered, I guess. So,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, not they
yeah,
had James Mangold in there, but so I was expecting a little bit
yeah.
of like Indiana Jones. And I think they might have like shown the poster for Dial of Destiny or something,
Well,
but
and
yeah.
that's the last thing that John Williams scored as
Yeah.
of right now. So,
As of
yeah.
right now, yeah, it's like, yeah, it's I don't know, but I don't mean to sound like upset about it, but I think there was so much great stuff in there that I would have loved to have seen. So if anything, I just wish this was so much longer.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
but yeah.
You don't you don't come off as like angry or whatever you said, but I would definitely agree though, because like I think covering John Williams is really really difficult cuz like he's scored so many great things in great
Yeah.
ways, and so it's like, how do you cover all of it efficiently and like sufficiently for
Yeah.
all of those things? And so it's like, I mean, obviously, I wish we would have spent more time on Jurassic Park. Like they spent time on Star Wars, which is understandable. Like, I don't know, it's interesting. Like the time, I
Yeah.
would agree though. Like I wish it could have been 20, 30 minutes longer, and it would have been, and just add some time to a lot of those different projects, cuz like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm sure they cut a lot of like extended talking and coverage of things. I bet they had to edit stuff out. So, but
Yeah. You know, I, I've been one to like edit a lot of like home video and stuff. I'll tend to like, edit out like a several hour video of like our past year or whatever, or multiple videos throughout the year. And so I love that highlight aspect of just kind of highlighting what happened on like a trip or something like that. But at
mhm.
the same time, I always feel sad that like I'm not getting the raw footage, like when I make those videos, I'm not getting, like, I made like a video for our wedding, but like it's just like it's got music that I put in there. You're not really hearing the day
Oh,
very
I got
much.
you. Yeah.
So for taking that like point of view into this documentary, there's a lot of like raw home video footage.
Mhm.
So I wish we could get like just all of that released with like
Yeah.
untouched. Like I just like, untouched stuff of like Steven just walking around like you know, just the orchestra, just like looking at things. Like cuz he's like such like a kid, it felt like, with his camera. There's like a lot of home video footage that he, I guess, added to this documentary, and I think that was some of the best parts of this, was just seeing like him just, look at John, and John's like, I feel like you're like I'm being filmed in the shower or something, except I'm wearing
Yeah.
clothes. It's like and then he just goes right into, conducting. Like it's just
Yeah.
like I want to see more stuff, like the raw stuff like that. So yeah,
It was a
hopefully
very
we'll get
like
some more.
that was a very ripped out of that time period reaction to a camcorder. Like,
Yeah.
it's kind of funny.
Yeah, just
So,
absolutely not used to being followed around with a home video,
yeah.
camera. But I thought that stuff was brilliant. Let's talk a little bit about there's like a few Jurassic moments. Um,
Mhm.
not much to discuss, but like I think there was like a little bit of the score in the beginning. Um,
There's
like
moments where they
Welcome to
used the
Jurassic Park.
score, but weren't necessarily talking about Jurassic, and they used
Yeah.
some music from The Lost World in there too, so
Yeah, there was part from the Lost World. I'm forgetting. It's like towards the end of the movie when they're in San Diego, I think. And they were talking about what was it like? Electronic music, and how they were like glad that they haven't like moved into electronic music and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, but you could have highlighted like at least two really great
There,
pieces that are like have electronic elements in them.
yeah, that
But
that part of the whole thing was a little odd to me.
uh
I didn't. I don't know. So like, it's funny because after we saw this, we went up and talked to Frank Marshall for a second, and like Neems told him that I was a composer, and so like when I went up to shake his hand, the first like I introduced myself, etc. But the first thing Frank Marshall said to me was, "I hope we didn't offend you." Because like
oh
talking
wow,
talking
okay,
to me as a composer, like
yeah.
hope we didn't offend you with anything in this documentary. And I was like, no, it was great. And like it didn't offend me, but like the the whole electronic versus orchestral, like that whole conversation in there was like, it was fine, and I get what they're trying to say, but like it was weird just because John Williams has done a lot of electronic music. Like
Yeah.
there's electronic music in Jurassic Park. Like
Uh-huh.
there's electronic music in The Lost World. There's synths in every John Williams score. They're just a lot of them are disguised so that you don't think they're synths. But anyway,
Mhm.
tangent. Sorry, but
No, I no, because that's what that moment was with the Lost World score in there. So like, and it stood out to me too because I get, like you said, I get where they're coming from, because it's like we're kind of showcasing how John does stuff, and John
yeah, exactly.
writes everything out with a pen and paper. That's amazing, incredible, and even John was humble about it. John was like, look, this is certainly not the way like my you know, friends in the industry these days, my younger friends are doing things. But
Yeah.
this is just how I do it. So I think he was pretty humble about it. Maybe the documentary itself was tending to look down on electronic music or digital compositions and stuff like that. But yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. So, but anyway, they used the flea circus stuff under like, which is so
Yeah.
funny because like I when I'm doing this podcast and sometimes I'll add music into the show. It's always about like those tender moments, right? When we're talking about the history of this movie franchise and stuff, like you want to add like the sick triceratops or the flea circus moments, like, so because the compositions are so like tender and loving, and I think
Mhm.
that was great that they used them. Um, but yeah, they use the flea circus bit about like talking about how they develop music today, and talking about will like orchestral music, like will it continue. So I don't know if that was again a shot at like digital stuff, but like I don't know, I think it'll always continue. I know that they were questioning that back in the 60s or 70s or whenever they started making, and
Yeah.
especially with Star Wars. It's like with Star Wars we're kind of tending to go towards the or not Star Wars, but like those movies from that era were kind of going like the disco route or something with a lot of their films. And then John Williams is like, no, and George Lucas, we need to make this orchestral and big. So yeah, so it's talking about like sentimental moments and stuff, and I can understand
Yeah.
them wondering if it's going to continue when they're gone.
It's I think to me, more of what it is like just sort of marking where we are in history and like this moment
Hmm.
in music history that we're kind of witnessing, because like John Williams is gonna go down in history the same way that like Mozart and Beethoven and Rachmaninoff and Brahms and like all those
Hmm.
people that everybody knows. Like John Williams is gonna go down in history that way, and I think like
Yeah.
it's important to emphasize his techniques and how he did things. And now we're sort of transitioning into different ways of doing film scoring, but it's John Williams is like, that's why this documentary exists, I guess, is because him and his techniques are just huge in the history of film and music. So I think that's what it is
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
eventually we got to the Jurassic Park section, and it was like mostly talking about like the awe and wonder and how John, viewed these from like a child's viewpoint with the excitement and wonder of that. And yeah, it's very kind of general stuff. So there wasn't really a deep dive. Gustavo Dudamel was talking a little bit about like his experience going to see it like 10 times in the movies just to hear that music, which was pretty cool. But yeah, then it quickly like transitioned into Schindler's List. But they also did add like the sick Triceratops moment there, I think towards the end of the film when they're talking just more about how great John is. I think they showcased the Lost World poster talking about sequels that he's done, and I was so sad because there was a moment where I
Yeah.
forget what he said. He was talking about sequels and like how important it is for him to like want to get his work out there and talk about like not having some other composer come and change his work and what
Yeah.
he's done. And I was like, and he was so insistent on like talking about, Star Wars and Indiana Jones, because those are his like, I think that's only real like I've completed this, because he didn't complete
Mhm.
anything with like Home Alone or Harry Potter. It's like there's many films after
Yeah.
he left, right? So, and
Yeah.
Jurassic was the same way. I was like, oh, we only got those 2 posters in that slide there. So, but then it was again featured during the unveiling of the John Williams
John
music
Williams music
building.
building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, we got to see it
It's
there. I
because
know
that
we
score
talked
was
about that
recorded
before.
there, I think, is why.
Okay.
But yeah. So
Yeah, that
yeah.
was about it though. There wasn't really a ton of Jurassic, but yeah, I think it was good. But I was like, oh,
Yeah.
we need more.
I
Like I need more.
enjoyed Oh yeah, I wish we could talk more about Jurassic when we talk about John Williams. Like I wish more focus could be put on that. I enjoyed that they like if I remember correctly, they made a point and were like I think it was Kathleen Kennedy or somebody who said it. They were like John did Jurassic Park and Schindler's List in the same like they pointed out that he did it in the same year, I think, which like that should be pointed out because it's ridiculous. So I appreciated that. But then yeah, the sequels. It's like, yeah, I've done all of Star Wars, I've done all of Indiana Jones, and I did 2 Jurassics and then yeah.
Yeah,
So
just handed it off.
but yeah.
I swear, no shade, Don Davis. Really, for real. But yeah, it made me wonder, like, what does that mean for Jurassic if he didn't want to continue that? He didn't want to see.
Yeah.
He's okay with having his work messed with. But yeah, I thought that was funny. Um, some
Yeah.
other things I wrote down that I wanted to kind of go through. You talked about some bigger concepts and stuff that they got into but like they were easy to digest, I guess, for the audience. One of those
Mhm.
things was like temp tracks. They did a lot of like
Yeah.
discussion on temp tracks, which I thought was really cool to kind of hear them get into it, but not so deep. They really barely did it. There was like one point where they showcased like maybe 4 or so titles that they worked on for or that they had added in for Star Wars. And I just that's something that I think would have been awesome to kind of play some of those, get the rights to play some of those so we can hear and compare, those things. Cause I know not everybody listens to podcasts that go deep into the comparisons, but like,
Yeah.
it would be nice for people to hear like what do the planets sound like versus, Star Wars or whatever, So there was stuff in there I thought was
Yeah.
really cool that they talked at least about temp tracks, and that was pretty fun.
Yeah, if anyone wants to enroll in the film music class that I teach, uh, one week when we talk about Star Wars, we take the music out of the intro of Star Wars and like put under other things underneath it, so you can kind of see how that changes things, which is exactly what they did when they were trying to score Star Wars. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And even George Lucas talked about it because they were commenting on the binary sunset in the movie. And, there
hmm
was a cue that I guess John had written for it. And George was like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I like that version. Maybe do something else.
Do you want to
Um,
know? So that they sort of in the documentary they sort of play the music that John Williams
mhm.
tried at first before they replaced it with the Force theme, Binary Sunset, that everyone
Yeah.
knows. Um, and the music there, like dead on immediately, reminded me of that alternate music that is that they were originally going to have at the end of the Lost World under like the pteranodon landing on the the ending
Oh,
of the Lost
okay.
World. Those two pieces of music sounded very, very similar to me, and I was like, "Oh, whoa, that's
That's
weird." But
funny. I'll have to go back
anyway,
and listen to that. Yeah, because it felt, it's kind of jarring when you see something you're familiar with, and then it's like, oh, that it just doesn't fit. It doesn't work. So now I
yeah,
got
it
to go
feels
back and
off.
double
Yeah,
check that. Yeah. So I thought that was cool. The temp track stuff. I thought the history that was like on display was just incredible. Like, they John has the piano. Like he's got the piano that he like worked on for like from Jaws onward. It's like unreal, like that he's
yeah,
got this piano just still there. And at the end of the documentary, um, there's just like kind of like photos or whatever of certain pieces, and it's like you've got just photos of that piano and like all the like the books that John has assembled over the years of all of his works of art basically.
yeah.
And throughout there he's like opening up these books, and just like you see all the like the orchestral pieces in there and stuff. It's just really cool to see like the sheets just like in there from the past, like the original score sheets. And I think it's just incredible, like the history that's kind of just on display there. It's really incredible.
Absolutely. There's at least a few shots of like his library of
Mhm.
all of his scores, like literally books of every score that he's ever written basically on his shelves in there. And I was like, I would like to peruse that, please.
Yeah.
No, the history though, like his first piece of music that he really did for something was for like a military promotional thing, like some
Yeah.
random little thing. And like I enjoyed, like, it's a horrible sad thing that happened, but like his wife passing away and like how much of a catalyst that was for his career, and like how
Mhm.
much that it inspired him to like write all of the music that he writes, like just that we were able to tell that part of his story was really great. So
Yeah, yeah. It was also just a very emotional like concept or just piece there, just
yeah,
showcasing all the different pieces of his life. There was one little moment that I was like, "Whoa, why how is his life so interconnected like this?"
yeah,
Frank Marshall's dad like played with him in the military
yeah,
band, the army band or whatever that he was in. It's like, "What? How is it?" Like John Williams just went to Frank Marshall's house when he was a kid. And I did find this stuff so funny because like I was like, wait, how old are these people? Like, because I always kind of attribute them to be the same age, like all of them. Steven Spielberg, Frank
yeah,
Marshall, John Williams, Kathleen Kennedy, they're all the same age to me. But like John was 40 when like when he started working with Steven Spielberg. And it's like,
yep.
Steven and George were like young guys. And so it's pretty funny that there's so much interconnectedness. And you talked about his wife and but like his family, his dad being like a drummer and stuff was
Mhm.
was cool. Like I didn't really know the history of his family. And then to get interviews about like, oh, I don't remember what his daughter does, but like saying his sons also both work in music to some extent. One's in Toto, one's toured with other bands or
One's the
recorded with
lead
other
singer
bands.
of Toto. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and
So
then like, his dad was the drummer, and he would listen to him on different scores and playing on the radio. And I liked listening to John just talk about like, yeah, I would just sit there and like really like hone in on the drums and just try to hear the drum. I'm like, man, that's such like a musician kind of thing, I guess, like just trying to hone in on certain aspects of music. I just really got a kick out of that. And
oh
music
yeah.
has just literally followed his entire family, and it's his grandson is like under his name when he came up on the documentary. He's doing some
Yeah.
music stuff, and like so I know his brothers do some stuff. So it's just crazy, like the entire thing. John said in the documentary, like, you know everybody I know has done this, so I just assume this is what you do. Like this is where you go. And he's like, I'm just going to be a pianist for the rest of my life. And then he just kind of stumbled into being a composer, which is like unreal that he
Yeah.
just stumbled into that to be the best ever,
It's crazy. No, I like his grandson, like when they spoke with him and the things he had to say, he seems very like in tune with the music industry. Like that's really what he's trying to do. So that was really cool. So
Yeah. Yeah. There was one moment where I forget who said it. Um, I don't know if it was like J.J. Abrams or somebody, but they mentioned like the themes reminding like you of who you were like when you first heard them. And that was one that really got to me because at that moment they ended up showing like a shot from The Force Awakens. And I got like so choked up at that moment because like
mhm.
you know, it was only just almost 10 years ago now, but like I haven't rewatched the sequels like religiously like I have the prequels and the originals. So like that like brought something up for me. I was like, "Oh my god, like yeah. Ah, like that was awesome just to kind of hear them talk emotionally about that and just see that footage." I was like, yeah, that's emotional stuff there. So that hit me hard.
The
I got
Force
choked up
Awakens
there.
score, yeah, the Force Awakens score is pretty phenomenal. So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah,
valid.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was just an impactful time, you know, back then in 2015. So, Kate Capshaw is in this documentary, like crying
Oh yeah.
now, 30 years later, about about hearing Schindler's List for the first time, and you can just see how emotional she is dealing with that, and just talking about because, like she said, you know, John played it for her back in '92 or '3 or whenever the music was first created, and it was just like you could see the emotion on her face still thinking about that moment. Um, and Chris Martin was one that I was like, why is the guy from Coldplay in this? But,
Yeah.
you know,
True.
he, just seeing him, he actually like had his phone up and he's playing the ET theme at one point, and he's like, I'm like, we're all that dude, like we're all that guy, like because he's sitting there getting hyped and like cheering on and getting so emotional about like the main part of like the ET score, and I was like, dude, we're all the same. This is awesome.
Didn't they
Like
play
I
it
was
as they like
excited.
walked into their concerts too?
Yeah, they
Like
started plays
Coldplay?
like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has a deeper meaning for them, I guess, because like they play it going into their shows. I'm like, yeah, that's pretty cool. I would too. Uh, but yeah, it
Yeah.
was emotional. It was awesome. And John, I liked. Like I said, hearing from him specifically and seeing how sharp he is
Mhm.
still. He's what is he like 90 something, and he's just like
He's
still so
92,
sharp.
yeah.
He's
So,
still sharp
yeah.
about the music. Like he'll just sit there and just play, you know, a sick like lick, like just like a riff of music, and it's just whoa, man! Like you're just belting it out there and just talking about the ins and outs of like, you know, like just I don't know, just like talking about how like if I think he was talking about uh what's that movie with the aliens, Close Encounters,
Close
and just
Encounters, yeah.
that like 5 note motif that he's got there, and just like saying like, oh, if you play it this way, it's just like it's like an end of a sentence. That's it. It's done. There's the phrase is over. But
Yeah.
if you play it this way, the way that we recorded it, there's something spiritual about it that like it's not done. It's just an and. It's not the end of a sentence. It's the middle of the
Yep.
sentence. There's so much more. Like so, it was really cool to just hear him getting into that talking about that stuff. That's the stuff that I really wanted more. Like I wanted more of that kind of like hearing him work it out. That's cool.
Yeah, he's definitely still sharp, and like that's one thing that I mean when I say like big concepts, making them digestible, because like there's
Hmm.
no one better to talk about like why themes make sense and why they're relatable and why they're memorable than John Williams, because he can just explain it to you perfectly. And that's
Yeah.
that's what he did right there. So yeah.
Um, One thing that was interesting was like kind of there was a lot of focus on isolation, and like how
Mm.
he's I think his grandson was somebody that said like he's just basically like locked himself in a room for 60 years. So it's kind of like an interesting experience because like John is always pretty humble about like his work and not really he just seems like kind of down to earth and normal dude. And you tend to wonder like does he know? Like, does he get this? I know he conducts, in person in huge venues, and he sees the love and all that stuff. But like, it's interesting that the isolation, I guess, that he kind of experiences just writing this music and then going on to the next thing. He's not focused about like whatever he said. Like, there's people lined up for Star Wars, and he's like, just moved on to the next score. Like, I didn't even. He's like, I didn't even think about it. Like, it just just continued.
Yeah. I
And
don't know
there
if
was
it's I was just gonna say, I don't know if it's the like imposter syndrome that every
Mhm.
musician has, where it's like, there's no way anyone's gonna like this, and then like people love it, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
There was like home video footage of like him and Steven Spielberg back when ET came when they were making ET, and Steven's like, "Yeah, the Yoda theme in there is quite nice. Like that's awesome.
yeah,
I like that." And John's like, "Oh, do you think anybody's going to get it?" And Steven's like, "Yeah, about 200 million people are going to get it." Like
yeah,
yeah, it was like, "John, of course they're going to get it. They understand." So I thought that was just funny that like, he doesn't even realize the how incredible his work is and how many people, he's touched by it, I guess. So
I
it's
think
it's
that's what makes
awesome.
him so yeah, I think that's what makes him so great is just and how he's able to just write themes that are so directly relatable to so many people is he's just a human being who's
Yeah.
insanely talented. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think like I said before, the best part for me was like the home video footage from Steven Spielberg. It kept popping up on the bottom saying like, and you could tell like the aspect ratio changed and everything. Um,
yeah,
it looked old. Obviously, everybody was younger in this footage, and just John and Steven together. It's just so heartwarming. It's just so incredible. Like, there's just like Steven Spielberg just kind of like interrupted John's like interview and just like crashed the interview, and then they just like it became some of the best parts of this documentary was just the two of them because he crashed the documentary and just like showed up, and just hearing that like was awesome, and the way that they're so familiar with each other and they joke around so
yeah,
much, and like I just loved it. There was scenes from like different performances or awards ceremonies and stuff like that, and you just see how close they are, kind of hugging each other, getting in close, touching each other's arm. There's one moment I thought was kind of funny. Steven's like, "Yeah, he was just back then. He's such a great guy, really awesome dude, great music." And I just remembered his hands. He had beautiful hands, and that they just left it there. There was no expanding on like why his hands were beautiful or what about it, but like he just said he loved his hands. I thought that was pretty funny.
oh my gosh, like it's so great that they're just such close friends after all this
Hmm.
time and like collaborating like that, like after everything that they've made and everything that they've been through, that they're just like hugging each other and have
Yeah.
inside jokes that are like 30 years old. Like it's great.
Yeah.
So
So any final thoughts before we wrap up this portion here about the music by John Williams?
I mean, I'm just glad this documentary exists. I mentioned that I teach film music to college students on occasion, and so like having a documentary like this that I can recommend to college music students is a really cool thing because it's a really good intro to film music and how film music works and like themes and just sort of everything that you on a basic level could want to learn about film music and about John Williams. And he's just like perhaps like top 5 composers of all time, but like certainly the greatest film composer of all time at this moment. So like
Yeah.
it's an incredible thing to get to witness, I think. So
Yeah. Yeah, we're all lucky. All right. So with that massive chunk out of the way, we've got to talk
yeah,
about a little bit about Rebirth. I don't know what to talk about,
yes.
but I gotta feel like there's going to be a composer maybe by the time this is out. Like I'm sure there is
Yeah,
one currently,
maybe. I
but
don't know.
I feel like the word has to come out soon. um
Yeah.
with rumors and stuff floating about trailers and Wicked coming out next at the end of this week or whatever, this recording, like
Mhm.
we may know like by the time this is out there. So um but
Yeah.
what are your expectations for a composer? Like do you have somebody in mind that you think is the best fit, or do you have your most hyped person? Like who do you want? Like what do you think?
So it's interesting. I think I think an announcement of a composer for a Jurassic film is very warranted. It's a big franchise. It's a big deal. I think they should announce it. And so like in that thought process, an announcement should be here It's got to be sometime soon. Like, just for example, Michael Giacchino was announced as the composer for Jurassic World in May of 2014,
Oh yeah.
which is a year and a month before the film. But Jurassic World was delayed by a year because they were rewriting and all that stuff. So, and after that, it was just kind of like with each subsequent Jurassic film, I was just like, Giacchino's back, hooray!
Yeah.
Basically. So, which is, so I say all that to say, it's interesting that there hasn't been an announcement yet. To me, I think I would have thought they would have announced it by now with everything else that they've announced about the film. But as far as someone I have in mind, I would like if Universal came to me and said, "Who should we pick for a composer for Jurassic World Rebirth?" I would tell them Alexander Desplat. I think that's the most unique choice. I think it's a really solid choice as far as style, as far as the way he writes themes and things like that. He's worked with Gareth before on Godzilla.
On Godzilla, right? Yeah.
And Godzilla stylistically is fairly Jurassic if you listen to it. There are other options out there. Hans Zimmer just worked with Gareth Edwards on The Creator, so like that's a fresh relationship that could happen again. Michael Giacchino could come back. We can talk about how we feel about that if that were to happen also. But yeah, that's my thoughts. I want Alexander Desplat. So that's my thoughts at the moment.
I mean that would be pretty great. Yeah, I was just looking up what is some of the recent stuff he's worked on, and I see Asteroid City in there. Scarlett Johansson was in that. That was like
there's another crossover.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think because outside of that, like I'm trying to see if there's nothing familiar to me so far outside of Godzilla.
He did the last two Harry Potter films.
Oh, okay. All right, that makes sense.
A score of his that I really like is The Shape of Water.
Okay.
Just as another example, but yeah.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. Just we all tend to look at like, all right, who's Gareth Edwards worked with? It's Hans Zimmer, it's it's Alexander, it's Michael Giacchino, and I think you had mentioned talking about Michael Giacchino, how he was announced so early on, and then I remember going through the waves of like, is he gonna be back? Is he continuing with Fallen Kingdom? And then like he did, obviously he confirmed that, and then he did it, and then like the same thing with Dominion. It's like, is he coming back? I don't know, it's so late, we haven't heard anything. Who's going to be the composer? He was the composer. So yeah, I'm starting to get into that vibe again, where like come on, we're getting late here, we got to start talking about this. Who's it going to be? And I feel like we're getting there again, like it's just going to be, here he is. It's just Michael Giacchino. Again, very nice and easy pick. I know, a lot of people are saying like, oh, he's so busy and, but like, this is the guy who did this score with Gareth Edwards in like 3 weeks or something. I don't know, something stupid like that,
For Rogue One. Yeah.
Rogue One. Yeah. So, and there was, he's done multiple movies within the same month or months, like within a very short amount of time, each time he did a Jurassic movie. So it's not
he's been really busy before, like 2022, a year with a Jurassic movie. He also did the Batman, he also did Lightyear, he also did Thor Love and Thunder, I think was that year too, I think. So he covered he covered DC, Marvel, Jurassic, and he covered all his bases. So and he's doing a Marvel in July of next year. So or in June or in summer of next year. Yeah.
It's like a few weeks after Jurassic, I think, comes out, right?
I think it's a week or two after Jurassic, I think. Yeah. So
now you mentioned Batman, and I think hey, what about his son Mick? He just scored the Penguin.
He just did the Penguin.
He's doing
Yeah.
Skeleton Crew, which is coming out in
Yeah.
December. So I'm sure other stuff too. But like, hey, what if he has a shot? You know, what if he gets his name out there?
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on the should someone named Giacchino come back or should they not? Like, where do you stand on that
I'm
whole
fine with
question?
it. Like
Okay.
I love his work. Obviously, we've talked about it plenty. Like I love
Yeah.
the stuff he did throughout all three of those world movies. So I'm perfectly
Mhm.
fine with it. I think is a very safe choice. Like it's a very obvious choice, very safe. Not to say that safe's bad. I've like I said, I've loved his scores. So
Mhm.
it's just the easiest option. So I think that would be good. I mean, I'd like to see. I think Amy Doherty did a good job, right, with Battle at Big Rock. That could be
Mhm.
something. I know Natalie Holt has done some good stuff with. Oh, I forget. There was a few things in there. Obi-Wan, I think.
Obi-Wan.
So
Loki.
yeah, Loki. That was it too.
So Leo
And somebody that
Bierenberg also.
Leo. Look, I was just watching Cobra Kai, and the dude definitely listens to some of the same music that I listen to. I feel like because
Yeah.
I'm watching that's that latest season. I'm like, he's listening to this band that I like. So, but yeah, I'd like to see that, and that would be great. His Jurassic stuff is awesome. And look, I mean, one of my favorite scores of all time is from Signs, and I'd like to see James Newton Howard. Like I would be down for that. I think Signs is something that's so creepy and so. Hey, there's like cornfields and things like that they got to go through. So I think there's fields in this coming movie. We've seen that's about all we know about this movie is that there's fields.
Is that we're gonna be
it.
in a field
We're
of
gonna
long
be in a
grass.
field. So like, let's get James Newton Howard. Like that could definitely work.
Listen,
but
he
yeah.
scored Dinosaur, the Disney dinosaur.
Which I love, dude. Like I love the
Exactly.
score for that movie. It's so good. Give him another shot at dinosaurs.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know, but I know a lot of people like want to just jump on and be like, "Yo, John Williams, what's up? Like, let's get you back in here." I don't after watching that
It could
documentary,
happen.
I don't see it happening after watching that documentary and just
Yeah.
him just talking about sequels that way and not continuing with
Yeah.
Jurassic. So, if anything, like he could give us like one final dinosaur theme or something like that. That could be interesting.
He did that with Han
Or
Solo,
island.
like came in and
Yeah.
did a theme, and yeah.
Yeah.
So
Like give us like another island theme of some sort. Like that could be cool. But
the
I don't
rebirth
know.
theme.
Yeah. But I mean there's literally so many composers you could think of. They'd all be excellent. I'm sure they'd all do the trick. But yeah, I think I'm perfectly content with Michael Giacchino just coming right back. Literally everybody's still involved, like the same people outside of like Colin, and they swapped it with Gareth now. It's like it's easy just to bring him right back, especially with the rapport that I guess they probably have with each other too. So
Yeah, he does
just bring him
have
back.
rapport with Gareth for sure. I would be just fine if Giacchino came back, but I want someone fresh, I think, is where I'm at on it. But
So
yeah.
so that brings me to your expectations, I guess, and hopes for the scores. So you want Alexander Desplat to come back, or not to come back, just to enter the franchise. What about it, like his stuff would make you want him here? Like what are your expectations for this score?
I mean, when I state my expectations, I don't know that they're necessarily in relation to like what has come before with Giacchino or even what has come before with John Williams. That being said, in relation to Michael Giacchino, Alexander Desplat is a little more in the direction of like a traditional symphonic thing, traditional orchestral thing, whereas like Michael Giacchino's kind of a hybrid of traditional orchestral and like modern orchestral stuff, if that makes sense. And so like I just love the way that Alexander Desplat writes themes. He does it in a very like, for lack of a better term, he does it in a way that composers used to do in like the 80s and 90s, where the themes are
None
kind
of
of
that
more
electronic garbage, right?
no.
Like
And I don't even mean like, I mean, I do mean from a writing perspective, but I also mean from an orchestration perspective. And I
Mhm.
don't mean to like get into music terms that are other seem like other languages, but like I don't know, just the way Desplat orchestrates his scores and the way they end up sounding like they're just a little more in the direction of that full like symphonic orchestral John Williams thing.
Mhm.
Um, like just a little bit of a percentage more than more recent things, and like I don't know. I think most of my expectations for the score are that I just want it to be fresh and new
Mhm.
and try new things. Don't you know? That's a big part of why I love Giacchino scores for the Jurassic World trilogy so much, is because they came in and they did something new. They didn't like immediately rely on what had come before, but they incorporated what had come before in good ways. And so I want the score to do that. I guess maybe my personal preference is like Desplat's style of more traditional orchestral and like those thematic things that he does that are like really memorable and noticeable. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying there. Yeah, I think, you talked about having something new and that's what this movie's going for, right? They're continually talking about like obviously the title of the movie is Rebirth. There's
Hmm.
the sun rising, I guess, or yeah, whatever. So there's a lot of like new. This is new, something different, and so I think that could be on the table is having some new sounds, new vibes. Do you think that's the score, like the theme? Do you think that's sticks around, or is this because I was talking about this actually
Yeah.
tonight or today with my wife. I brought up the upcoming Harry Potter TV show. I don't know anything
Hmm.
about it really, but I know that they're gonna redo it, and it's like,
Hmm.
do you keep the score? Like, do you keep that themes? Because like, how do you do Harry Potter and not have the music of John Williams?
Yeah.
And I think you have to like, and I talked about how like, whether it was like Zack Snyder's like, Superman, like not having John Williams' Superman theme, something felt lacking in that regard, right? Like, when you
Hmm.
add those themes or whatever, it feels right. It feels good. So I don't know. Like, do you go in completely fresh with no history, no? I don't know. It's interesting.
I mean, there's a discussion out there to be had about like whether whether or not you think the Jurassic franchise is on the same level as a franchise as like Star Wars, Marvel, these series, these big trilogy based series. And I'm someone who would argue that it is on the same level at this point, when there's this much attention to a seventh movie in a franchise. Like Star Wars just did what Jurassic is about to do. Jurassic is about to have a third trilogy. In case anyone was wondering whether or not that's going to happen. And Star Wars just did, like, they had their big seventh movie after a little while, and like then they did another trilogy. So I guess what I'm getting at though is that like then you have to have a discussion about like, are these themes on the same level? Are this like the scores, and like is it that emblematic and iconic and attached enough that you should continue it? um I would, and on the Harry Potter question, I would agree with you. I would say maybe you could like just use that main Hedwig's theme, just
Hmm.
because it's so memorable and emblematic of Harry Potter, and then
Yeah.
like people, that would be musical identity enough, maybe. But like,
Hmm.
especially because like these aren't in the same continuity as the other Harry Potter films, right? So it's a new thing. But
It's yeah.
anyway,
Well, it's just redoing it. So, but yeah, I
right.
think you're right. Like,
So
if you kept that one thing, that I think that would be fine. Yeah.
I think like you because we're connected to the other 6 films for sure, like I think that the themes will stick around. They are iconic and emblematic enough of Jurassic. Like people know what they are. With a new composer, as far as how they will be used and when, that that's going to be something that's really interesting about this
Hmm.
score and this film is like what mindset are we going to take this time? Are we going to have these musical themes frequently and in places that they, people think they should be, or, what's the approach going to be? So,
Yeah, it's funny because like you see like commentary online about how do you have these movies and not these new Jurassic World movies and not include the iconic Jurassic World or iconic Jurassic Park score, like, and like they did, it just wasn't the way you wanted it to be, but like it was there, and
yeah.
they it was spread throughout the entire thing, but like Jurassic Park hasn't really exactly been the same way that like Star Wars has done themes, like they even said it in
Hmm.
the documentary. There's like 58 themes or so, there's like a theme for
Yeah.
every character and every droid and all this different stuff. And Jurassic has like 3 themes that maybe you could like carry over.
That's what I was
There's
going to
like
say. The thing is, like, there's, there's like, you can count on one or two hands, like,
yeah.
the main themes of Jurassic at this point. So,
Yeah. So carrying them
um,
over maybe gets redundant, I guess, at some point, but like but yeah, I can definitely still see it happening, but
that's a
at
question
least
though. Do you
what's
think
that?
that the Jurassic World themes are going to
Hmm.
carry over? Like,
Huh. Oh,
I could
man,
see
I don't.
play I could see places where they could and where it would make sense. I could also see places where it would not. So,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah, I
yeah.
would think if there's going to be a new person coming in, new composer, I would say probably not. They're probably not going to carry over anything from the Jurassic World movies.
Yeah.
If Giacchino's there, yeah, absolutely. But
If
like,
for sure, yeah.
yeah, but even then, I'm not really sure. Like, maybe you'd get like the family theme from like Jurassic World that plays, for anything Jurassic World related. Um, I don't know, but like, there's not a ton that I could necessarily want carried over. That's so
Mhm.
specific that I'm like, that needs to be here. Um, the
Yeah.
Lost World thing, I just want the Lost World theme all
You
the
just
time. Like, I just want that to be carried over. That's the one thing I definitely want carried over.
Yes, yes.
Especially because this movie looks to be like in tone of like something like the Lost World, where you're in the
Mhm.
wild and it's just So I think like, yes, please, if Michael Giacchino's coming back, we're not getting it. It's just not happening. He gave it to us like that one time, and it's just like, no, yeah, you don't deserve this. Um, but but yeah, I don't know. I think Jurassic has been so kind of wishy washy on its themes that it's like probably it'll probably show up here or there, but yeah, if Giacchino comes
Yeah,
back,
and
like
I
we'll get enough.
yeah, and like I think if it comes back when it's appropriate in important moments, which is kind of the MO that we've had with these scores over the last trilogy. So like I think that makes sense. You're tying back to what has come before, but like it's not a huge direct thing. So
Yeah, one
yeah.
thing I could definitely hear if this is going to be like, if you think about the like how the Lost World plays out and how like everything they're just kind of coming across all this like overgrown stuff and just like broken down facilities or whatever. Like if you're not going to use the Lost World themes or anything like that, I could definitely hear like the 4 note like motif, like the do
Oh yeah.
do do
Yeah.
do. Like you see that InGen logo, like that theme is probably going to pop up or something. Like
That would be
stuff like that.
sick. Yeah. That'd be
So I
awesome.
could definitely hear that. But like it's not like Star Wars, where Star Wars every movie starts with bam, ba-da-da, it's got the entire theme
Yeah.
played right straight in the beginning.
Yeah.
Jurassic's not necessarily like that, so it'll be
Well, I was
interesting.
gonna say, like, if it's a new composer coming in, like the themes that everyone is gonna know are probably the Jurassic Park ones, just because they've been around longer and like
Mhm.
they've been used in more movies at this point, and so like those are the ones you might know and be able to insert first anyway. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, yeah, just any expectations, any other ones I have. Yeah, I just hope it's like kind of like a darker score. I think that would be kind of cool, like something like The Lost World. I think, if
Totally.
anything, if there's a new composer coming in or Giacchino, whoever, I hope they do less, do less, because that was something that was certainly lacking, I think, from the Jurassic World movies. Was the
Yeah.
silence,
Yeah.
just letting a scene play out. And, we just had that quote recently where I think Gareth Edwards had said, like, this brings it back to what he liked about the original or something.
Hmm.
So, like, that's what the original did so well, was having gaps where there were no music. So I think that would be the best thing, is just to have these big set pieces and cool things like they talked about in that article, and just like have no music, like just bring it down to nothing. And I think somebody like Gareth Edwards probably could make that work really well.
Totally. Yeah, and he also talked about playing games with the audience. And so like
Mm.
the sound is part of that for sure. So
Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Like playing like the Lophosaur like sound effect when it's not actually there. That's a game that I
yeah.
don't like playing.
Yeah.
But all right, anything else before we wrap this up? Any other final thoughts here on Rebirth?
I'm just really excited about it. It looks great so far, I think. I want to know who's going to compose the music. That's what I want to know
Yeah.
next. So,
Give us that information. This whole segment is going to be for nothing when we figure out this week that it's whoever. It's
it's going to be prophetic actually, I think. I hope.
yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I think so. Like I could definitely just see like a trailer come out and it like mentions somebody in the trailer or something.
Yeah.
But or I don't know. That would be great. Just let us know more. This is the movie that like they're not giving us anything, and it's so, and
Yeah.
they're trickling it out,
That's
and then
true.
they throw a bunch at us, and we're like, oh my god, that's amazing. But now again I'm like, I feel like I don't know anything again, and I need more. So it's about time. Let's let it happen. Come on.
Yeah, we've got more coming from Empire magazine this week, so we'll see what that is. Yeah. I mean, my last thought maybe is that since there hasn't been an announcement yet, maybe it's a smaller name for a composer. So
Yeah, could
could
be.
be.
Could
So
be. But in the meantime, before we find that out, where can everybody find you and all the stuff that you're up to? What have you been doing?
you can find me at Caleb Composed on everything, including YouTube, where I am making unboxing videos of dinosaur toys and vlogs, and over on social networks, I'm just tweeting about how excited I am about Jurassic World Rebirth. So you can follow me over there.
Awesome. And if you want to go read his review of music by John Williams, go over to Letterbox too. So, but
Yes.
yeah, thank you so much, man. It's been fun. We gotta do the Jurassic Park 3
Yeah,
full
man.
score soon, man. Soon. We'll get that thing.
So
We'll
good to
dive
be
into it
back.
deeply. Yeah.
Yes, we do.